The original Season 4, Episode 11, A Spirit Here That Won't Be Broken. I really enjoyed this episode, even though apparently we're going into the last two. I totally forgot from the last episode, we're already going into our final two. But this was a really good one, even leading up to the last two episodes, not going right into the finale. We got some really good stuff with this. We got the official return of Davina, who sadly, by the end, her and Cole ultimately did. They kind of, drive off into the night. But they are, at least for now, away from all of the chaos and the trouble. Of course, with them being alive, with any TV show, if a character is alive and they're able to have that moment of freedom, at some point they end up coming back into the show. So I thought that was great that even though she was linked to the Hollow and they had that crazy moment where everyone's just getting stabbed and it's like a spell is being undone and this person is possibly immortal already and then someone else who's linked to this immortal is dying. Despite all that chaos, Davina came out okay because she goes to see Josh. She ultimately ends up saving her life. So, they're able to, Davina and Cole are able to be together and just drive off into the night. So I thought that was really great, and we'll get to see them in the future. We'll see what happens, next season, like who the main villain is going to be and how that may or may not bring them back in the next season. But I thought that was great. I like the way that played out. Of course, as I mentioned before, Cole is always the person that is kind of the one who goes against the family. There's always some issues there with Cole. So I like how that played out in this episode. Of course, we have him tricking Rebecca and Marcel when they go into the house. He has them, trapped. And so, of course, as they're trapped there, Klaus eventually shows up and is like, how'd you two get trapped by an old witch or whatever? And it's like, we actually trusted Cole, and that was our mistake for trusting Cole for, 1 second of his life. So, of course, that ends up playing out again. And Cole and Klaus actually have a little battle, but ultimately, Cole said the magic word, and he was like, what if it was Cammy? And that was pretty much it. It was like, I caught him in a rare charitable moment, but it's like, you throw Cammy in his face, and it's like, I guess I would do anything to bring her back to life. So, Cole was smart. He played the love card, and every once in a while, depending on the person, that can work on Klaus. Like, there's basically two people, and it's like, you talk about Cammy, who's already gone, or you talk about his daughter, you're pretty much guaranteed to get out of it. His family, the rest of his family, kind of iffy. It depends on how he's feeling about him during that day. But Cole was able to, say the magic word, and he was able to escape with his life without being daggered. And ultimately, everything seemed to work out. I knew what was going to happen by the time we, got to the end of the episode. But the whole way through, it was still really, really great. Like, just trying to wonder, like, who is going to make it out of this? Are they going to end up killing Davina again? Is she going to survive this? How is the Hollow going to survive? Is she going to have her own body? Is she going to become completely immortal? There are a lot of different steps that could have played out in a number of different ways. And it's like, all right, well, let's see what happens. We have Freya and Haley, going in full force with these, basically like these blood daggers. And so it's like, they have Hope's blood on them. They will kill the Hollow. That's all we need to do. We go into this house, take her down. And of course they go in and they're instantly hit with hallucinations. So Freya is like just tossed backwards. Haley is basically brought into the room and knocked out. And so she has visions of Jackson. And I thought it was cool. We get to see him come back. And she has a very interesting sort of revelation about her relationship with Jackson and how she probably should have been with him. But during the time where she had to choose, she chose the person who, made her feel safer compared to, like Elijah understood and made her feel safe, as where Jackson, it was like he didn't really understand. He was just the safe part, but he didn't really understand it 100%. And a part of the thing he didn't understand is that, as she says in the end of the episode, she's a monster too. Like Jackson was good, but the person she chose in Elijah was never truly that. Like, he was never really good, and neither is Haley. So I thought that was actually a great bit of reflection. It was kind of hard to tell if that meant she was, like, having this crazy epiphany, like, I shouldn't be with him, but it didn't, like, by the time it ended, I was like, okay, it doesn't seem like she's saying she won't be with Elijah at all, but it was an interesting little moment after, all the chaos that happened. She kind of settles down and is like, man, I probably should have chosen you in that moment. It was just too crazy, though, and that's why I didn't. So I really like the way that played out. Now, I'm sure that will have an effect, even though it wasn't like, I can't be with Elijah now because I realized I shouldn't have been with him in the first place. It'll still have an effect on their relationship. So I am excited to see how that ultimately ends up playing out. Of course, Elijah is brought back to life by the end of the episode because technically, kind of like what happened with Elijah with his whole sideline dying out, technically the Hollow still died, so they were allowed to use the magic from that sacrifice to actually bring Elijah back to life, even though, like the pendant was breaking, so they were able to get his soul back into his body just in time. Sadly, after everything that played out, everyone thought it was like this great victory. We didn't actually die. Everything, pretty much worked out. Of course, the Hollow had this drink, and basically she transferred herself. And I don't know if this was meant to be the case, if she knew that Cole was going to try to have Hope unbound the spell. So I'm like, I don't know if that was a part of it, or is like, I know that she's trying to unbound the spell, but that's actually what she needed or something. So I feel like we might get an answer, but I was like, she drank the drink. Did she have to die? Because of course they didn't give that explanation, but I feel like that was what was supposed to happen. She set that up so that she could actually be killed, and then that would allow her to transfer into Hope, especially if she did do that spell. So I think ultimately how everything played out was exactly what the Hollow wanted. So of course she ends up in Hope's body. And I knew that was the case. As soon as they showed that scene, it was Hope looking in the mirror, and I was like, the Hollow's in her body, because the Hollow was like looking like, oh, this is my new face. I knew that that's what that meant. And of course the way she was speaking, it was like, oh, you didn't punish Cole. Like, she was very abrupt with her sentences, and it was very different than the way she was speaking before. And I was like, I can tell, like, it's obvious that the Hollow's within her. So that was an interesting way to end the episode off, and apparently everyone finds out. We only had 2 episodes left. I guess they they can't really hold that out for too long, but everyone seems to find out in the next episode, so I'm very excited to see how that plays out. We have kind of the serpent eating itself. Like, once the tattoo completes, then the Hollow will be inside of Hope's body forever. So very curious how things are going to play out. We had some other good stuff in this episode with Rebecca and Marcel, where they talk about their relationship, and Rebecca was kind of jealous of what was going on between Marcel and Sophia. So I kind of enjoyed that. I thought it was pretty funny. But by the end, of course, it's like, maybe we shouldn't see each other ever again. It's like, I think that would be for the best. But of course, they end up kissing because, they're like meant to be together. If they both end up surviving, I feel like ultimately they will end up together. Like, that's really the only pair in the whole series. Whereas, like, I could see that working 100% without fail. Like, Haley and Elijah, pretty confident about it, especially since that kind of started up in the beginning of the series. But if I had to pick like one pairing throughout the entire show, I mean, really there are only 2. Sadly, Cammy's gone. But if I had to pick one, I would definitely say like the 2 of them, Marcel and Rebecca, just works. Like, that's just how it is. Even with Davina and Cole actually having their moment where, like, where they ride off into the night, it's always going to be Rebecca and Marcel. It will always stop an argument. It will stop a murder. It will always be something drastic that can be cut between the 2 of them if they're on opposite sides, because they love each other that much. They'll always find a way to stop for that other person, despite what might be in between. So of course they end up kissing, and so we'll see how that plays out as things go on. But of course, in the promo, they show that Sophia wakes up, and I'm assuming that's how they find out that the Hollow is within Hope, because she's like, I can still feel the power of the Hollow, so she's not truly gone. So I'm definitely excited for this next episode. Of course, we only have 2 more to go, so I'm really excited to see what crazy ending we get for next week's episode leading into the season finale. But this was definitely fun. I enjoyed getting to see all the characters. Like I said, we get to see Davina officially come back to life, so if they want to, they can get her back in the show for an episode or whatever. Cole, same thing. But I'm excited to see where we go for these next 2 episodes. Of course, I want to know what you guys thought about this episode, so please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts. And of course, with the Hollow being inside of Hope, I have to ask your theories on how they're going to end up separating the 2 of them. What's going to be this grand spell? I would assume Vincent is going to have something to do with it, because that, like, he's the attachment to the Hollow. They reference him in this episode, but he does not show up. The only witches that show up are like all the dead witches in the house, and of course Freya and Hope. So we don't really get to see anything that's going on with him, but I assume he'll make an appearance leading into the finale. So I feel like whatever he's doing, wherever he's hiding or whatever he's researching, will have some relevance in the next episode. And who knows? I mean, maybe he will ultimately sacrifice himself, and maybe it won't be a permanent thing, but maybe he'll ultimately have the Hollow transfer to his body just to save Hope and everyone else, and then they like bound his body in a spell or something crazy like that. I kind of feel like that might be where it's headed. So it's either he'll have like a sacrifice, or he will be the one to defeat the Hollow, or Hope. Like, it was one of them, but now that she's been taken over, I feel like Vincent is the only other person that can really fight it, because it has this odd attachment to him. So either Hope's going to break free and then she'll destroy it, or Vincent will basically relieve her of the duty of holding the Hollow, and then Hope will have to, you know, do something to like seal it within him. So that's kind of my theory as to how things are going to play out, but we'll love to know yours and how they're going to end up saving Hope and how things will ultimately end up playing out. And like I said, I want to know what you guys thought about this episode in general, so please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.